My manager walked into the office on a Monday and took the title I had spent 3 years building toward. Everyone braced for me to snap, argue, or storm out. Instead, I shook his hand, smiled, clocked in at 9, clocked out at 5, and went home like nothing happened. 4 days later, the company was staring at 39 ignored client tickets, 3 furious corporate accounts, and a 6-figure mistake nobody could explain. What came after that flipped my entire career upside down. For almost 3 years, I was the one everyone leaned on. I showed up before the sun was up, stayed long after everyone left, picked up weekend emergencies, and quietly fixed the messes nobody else wanted to deal with. If a client was about to walk, they called me. If a project was collapsing, I was the one pulled into the room. I never made noise about it because I assumed the effort would eventually speak for itself. When talk of a promotion started floating around the office, almost everybody figured it was already mine. The role was operations manager, the kind of position that would finally pay back years of carrying extra weight. Coworkers were congratulating me before any announcement had even happened. A few joked they were already practicing calling me boss. I stayed quiet about it, not wanting to celebrate before leadership made it official, but inside I was sure this was finally my moment. Then came a gray Thursday afternoon that rearranged everything. The whole office was pulled into the conference room for the announcement, and the name that came out of the executive's mouth wasn't mine. It belonged to a guy who had been with the company for barely 6 months. His resume looked good, but everyone in that room knew he leaned on me just to get through a normal day. The silence afterward lasted only a second before the clapping started. My chest tightened, but I kept my face calm, walked over, and shook his hand. He looked almost stunned that it had actually gone his way. Once the meeting broke up, people swarmed me, certain I'd march into the executive office demanding answers or start applying elsewhere by lunch. I did neither. I thanked everyone for the support and went back to my desk like it was any other day. Later, my new manager came by, laying out his grand plan to boost efficiency and output. While he talked, something became obvious. He genuinely believed the department ran itself, that the smooth operations were just the system working, not the constant, invisible firefighting I did every single day. That night, I made a call that surprised even me. No more unpaid overtime, no more answering messages at midnight, no more babysitting systems on weekends or fixing things during my lunch break. From then on, I would do precisely what my contract said and nothing beyond it. In at 9, out at 5, handling only what was actually assigned to me. Day 1 felt foreign. At 5 on the dot, I shut my laptop and walked to the elevator. My manager looked thrown off, reminding me about client requests still sitting untouched. I told him politely that those weren't part of my job description and that he should handle prioritizing them however he thought best. He nodded with full confidence, insisting it was all under control. That night, for the first time in years, I sat with my family without glancing at my phone every 5 minutes. By day 2, the cracks started showing. A client escalation sat untouched for hours because no one knew the approval steps. A tech glitch I could usually fix in 10 minutes lingered all afternoon. People kept turning to the new manager for answers he didn't have, and instead of admitting it, he kept repeating that a better system was on the way. Behind the curtain, the backlog kept growing. Day 3 brought real pressure. Major clients were complaining about slow responses. Departments started clashing over who was supposed to be doing what, since nobody had realized how much I'd been quietly stitching together behind the scenes. The manager called an emergency meeting, pushing everyone to step it up. I stayed composed through it all. Whenever someone brought up tasks I used to just handle on my own, I calmly pointed out that none of it had ever technically been my job. The room went tense and silent. Later that afternoon, I got pulled into a meeting with senior leadership. The energy was nothing like the celebratory tone from the week before. This time, they wanted real answers about how operations actually worked, how client relationships were managed, and what was really going wrong. For close to 2 hours, I laid it all out honestly, never trashing anyone, just stating how things actually functioned. The truth did the rest of the work on its own. 2 days after that, the company made another announcement. The new manager was moved into a different role, and leadership openly acknowledged the promotion process had been mishandled. They also rolled out new policies to make sure critical work got properly documented and paid for going forward. Not long after, I was handed a far better position, more money, more authority, and a direct line to the executive team. What I took from all of it was simple. Hard work counts, but the work nobody sees can vanish without anyone noticing until it's gone. For years, I assumed loyalty alone would get me recognized. Turns out, companies often overlook exactly what they never have to think twice about. The second I stopped quietly holding everything together, the truth couldn't be ignored anymore. Now, when people ask how I got my revenge after being passed over, I tell them there was no revenge plan at all. I just stopped handing out what nobody bothered to value. Sometimes the loudest response isn't anger or confrontation. It's simply doing your actual job and letting everything else fall into place on its own. Walking out that evening, I passed the same conference room where leadership was still untangling the mess they'd created. Days earlier, they thought cutting me out was an easy call. Now they understood exactly what they'd almost thrown away. I never raised my voice. I never fought back. I never sabotaged a single thing. I just stopped carrying weight they pretended wasn't there. And that was enough to change everything.